So how should America handle it when our president is guilty of negligent homicide of hundreds of thousands of Americans? Check it out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. But for our first hour, I wanted to talk about Bob Woodward and Donald Trump. Bob Woodward was interviewed last night on 60 Minutes. I don't know if you saw it, but you know, the clips have been widely circulated. Pretty much everything he said has already been said in the press in the last week or so. And he was interviewing Donald Trump back in January and February. I mean, his interviews ran right up until a few months ago, but until August. But basically, the stuff that is so shocking is that in January and February, Donald Trump knew that this, and told Bob Woodward, that the coronavirus was not only deadly, far deadlier than the flu, but that it was airborne. And so it was highly transmissible. It's more than just a touch. You can't just wash your hands. It's airborne, and you can't stop breathing. The average person takes 17,000 breaths a day. You can't stop it. If you do, you die. And so, you know, Woodward knew this back in January and February, and I know it's very fashionable right now to trash Bob Woodward for sitting on that information. My personal take on it, frankly, is that if he had revealed it at the time in the Washington Post, it would have been a one-day story. Because back then, you know, nobody was sure of anything. I mean, by nobody, I mean in the general public, right, and in the news media. The scientists were pretty solid on this by the end of January. But it certainly wasn't making its way into the American media. Now, Taiwan and South Korea and, you know, several other countries, Australia, New Zealand, they had figured this out and they had locked down for it because they'd been through SARS back in 2003. And we'll get to that in just a second, but, excuse me. But, you know, Bob Woodward is being trashed for not releasing the information. As I said, I think that, you know, that's a reasonable discussion that we can have. But I think that there's a much, much bigger picture here that nobody's talking about. And that I think that we all need to talk about, which is if Donald Trump knew how deadly COVID was back in January, Bob Woodward couldn't have been the only person that he told. I mean, he had to have brought this up in cabinet meetings. The guy is, you know, voluble and loquacious. He's talking constantly. He knew this. I mean, and by the way, the people who told him probably told, at the very least, the national security staff and the White House staff. I mean, how could they not? So I think really the question we should be asking is, why did our government officials who are paid to keep America safe also not do anything to protect us? Why did they lie about it? Whether it's the appointed government officials like, you know, Jared and Ivanka, or whether it's the elected government or the appointed government officials in the cabinet or elected government officials like Mike Pence. In fact, Kelly Loeffler and Richard Burr, these Republican senators, dumped their stock after they got briefed about this. Remember that? Well, a professor and physician over at George Washington University, says that given this information, Donald Trump, at the very least, is guilty of negligent homicide. He didn't just ignore the virus. He actively lied to the American people about it and continues to lie to this day. I mean, holding giant rallies like he did over the weekend in Nevada. That's going to lead to increased infection spreads and more deaths. There will be other Herman Cains. More Darwin Awards are going to be passed out to Trump followers, to Trump humpers in the next few months because of what Donald Trump is doing right now. Now, most of them will probably die after the election. That's 50 days from now. But other countries that took testing and contact tracing seriously are now returning to something that resembles normalcy. I mean, this is pretty mind-boggling, right? Taiwan's last 5 months and counting continue to be defined by a single number. This is from the diplomat Nick Aspinwall. 0. The number of local transmissions recorded in Taiwan since April 12th. 0. Right? No deaths. I mean, it's you put this into perspective, and it gets pretty damn breathtaking. Canada reported 0 COVID deaths in the last 24 hours. This was a day or two ago. And maybe they've had a death in the last day or so. But, I mean, the rest of the world has this under control. We have more dead people in the United States now than died in all of America's wars since 1945. So how should America respond to leadership whose knowing, intentional lies and actions killed more Americans than the enemy in North Korea, North Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan combined over a 70-year period? Do we have a commission? Do we ship them off to The Hague?